Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. And as usual, we have a very packed programme for you today. First of all, we're going to be joined by Warren Ryan to talk about his difficult childhood and how he has not only overcome it, but also is inspiring other young people to do the same. We'll also be talking to Dr Arthur Cassidy, who specialises in mental health issues relating to cyberbullying. And do you remember Mr Zip and Where's My Keys, Where's My Phone? Do you guys remember?
Yes.
We'll get Ian to do a little demonstration. Hello, by the way, both of you.
Hello.
So we've got a nice interview with him a bit later on as well. Fun. Yes, and of course we'll be answering a question from a viewer. But first of all, you've seen them already. We have Ian and Helena with the news. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
So good to see you both.
Well, it's been a long day today.
I know, I heard you've been up filming since 6 a.m.
Filming, we've been wet.
What have you been doing?
We've been working with the
Queen's
Queen
opened
today.
Parliament today.
Oh.
So it's been a long old day. So she was there in her new coach and it was glorious and she was looking lovely.
Oh.
Camilla and Charles as well were there.
Helena waved at her. She waved back. She didn't really.
She didn't really. She didn't really. No, but it was really nice to see the coach as well, which is stunning. It's brand new and it's got a lot of history. It's got bits and pieces of, I don't know, from HMS Royal Yacht Britannia and also Henry VIII's warship and various things. So it's quite full of history.
Oh, wow.
And we took some great filming and photographs, of course.
Now, did you go and have afternoon tea with the Queen? That's the question.
Well, we didn't because she was quite busy today. So,
but you should have said you were quite busy because you were coming on the Chrissy B Show later.
But we're working on royal teas at the moment as well because you know, we're working on a new royal centre. And so we're actually looking at the history of royal afternoon teas and what that sort of thing. So I was in a very famous store this afternoon as well, tracking down some of the original afternoon tea delicacies that the royal family have, and so I really threw them. It? Well, they were. No, we're not. We will be.
Yeah,
but
I'm
trying. Could you please take me along so I can sample everything? Because I love afternoon teas.
Well, you know how much I like chocolate. Well, apparently the favourite cake of the Queen, I love the Queen now more than I did before, is that her favourite cake is chocolate and honey cake. But we can't find the recipe for it yet. So if any of the viewers know the recipe for royal honey and chocolate cake,
it would make it up.
Well, no, you can't. You see, we've got to be very specific.
Are you a cakey person?
Unfortunately,
Well, not so much. I like savoury. I like a few treats. But
I have to have my dessert.
Ian loves.
That's why I keep having arguments with Jane Rafter, our fitness expert, because she keeps trying to get me to stop for a while at least, just so I can lose the last 4 pounds that I've got to lose, but I just can't seem to do it. But I will get that. I'll get this.
Oh. Prince, remember Prince,
yes,
the singer?
I do.
He's been out and about at the French Opens, but everyone's saying he looks like this 70s villain in his dress because he's got this afro and these flares and white shirt and everything. But that's his style. That's him. He's iconic.
Yeah.
And he just
very
wants
different,
to hold
isn't
that.
he? Bless him.
He is.
But no one recognised him. That was the problem. Yeah,
you would have done it, wouldn't you? Because you worked with him like about 20 years ago.
Oh, that Prince! I thought you was talking about the pop singer. No, we were.
She knows you. She knows you well.
But the reality was that for that story, no one recognised him. All they saw was this quite elderly, quite weirdly dressed person. And then they suddenly realised it was Prince.
But he's 55, I think.
He's 55 now.
He's actually
There's nothing wrong with being 55.
Out with a girl from Hackney, who's I think 23.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's found her on YouTube, and she's a singer, and contacted her, and they're an item now. There you go. Funnier things.
Get all the latest news here.
Goodness knows what's happened to Serena Williams.
Well, what's happened to her?
I think she must have had something in her tea the other week. She was in America and she decided to put on this very revealing swimsuit.
She was on the beach. She was on the beach.
Was she on the beach?
Yeah, she was on the beach.
Wow.
So
did you think she was walking around in the shopping centre?
No. But the story is that she saw this wedding and she's decided to invade the wedding with her presence in her swimming costume. And not only did she sort of become part of the ceremony, she then insisted on being photographed with the bride and groom in her swimsuit.
Lots of stars are doing that. They're gate crashing weddings or events. And obviously people quite like it, but she did look
I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. If I was the bride, I'm serious. If I was the bride,
could you imagine it?
I'm the centre of attention on that day, not the celeb in a bikini. I'm sorry.
She's quite voluptuous, and with this leopard skin swimming costume,
I would have chucked her out.
I actually think it was a PR stunt, because obviously it's the tennis season, and she was frolicking in the sea with Caroline Wozniacki, or the other tennis player person.
Who?
So they were obviously, you know who I mean. You know. So I think they wanted to be seen because it's the tennis time. So it's all.
Sorry, I'd still
all fun and games. Also, the Oscars of Fashion, the CFDA Fashion Awards. Rihanna went to Rihanna and her most amazing. Did you see the picture of Rihanna? No. She was like in a fishnet, sparkly Swarovski dress.
It shocked
so
me.
Revealing. It was so revealing. It was unbelievable. But she scooped the Fashion Icon Award, and Anna Wintour gave her the award, and she was, I'm not too sure about it, to be quite honest, but she's all about fashion. She loves it. She hides behind it, and so there you go.
Just something a bit more classy would have maybe been.
Yeah,
absolutely.
she did.
I'm more classy than you really.
I think I am too.
I think it was a bit.
It
was a bit. I am an old-fashioned girl, you know me. But there's this other story this week about Little Mix as well. And Little Mix are now saying that they don't want to get married at the moment, and that quite a few of them are engaged or have some serious boyfriends, but they've all decided as a group not to get married. But they're also talking this week about their fear of flying, because part of the entrance to their show is that they all come in on aerial wires. And can you imagine it? Someone sort of gets that mixed up. More of a mix-up.
I mean, they're conquering America at the moment, aren't they? So I can't imagine they've got time for their relationship.
They have to conquer all of them. All of them are scared of flying.
Yeah. Well, so they come flying in on trapeze wires. Now
that's a good way to get over their fear.
Well, I mean, but apparently they're 40 feet up in the air when they first come in to the arena.
To see that.
So it's quite a, it's almost like Peter Pan type of effect as they sort of come sort of soaring in. I was thinking of setting this up for you.
No, thank you.
Love your challenges. You'd enjoy it though, wouldn't you? You'd enjoy it.
I already got set up to do a skydive. I don't know what's going to happen next.
Oh, God. Sorry, Karen.
We've got about a minute left. Can we fit quick funny?
Angelina Jolie and her fantastic Disney film that she's appeared in, Maleficent, has done incredibly well.
Has it?
It's a complete blockbuster winner, and something like 600 million or something ridiculous has been made.
Oh, wow.
And she's in China at the minute promoting it, and again, it's supposed to be amazing.
Was Brad with her?
I don't think so in China. There's been different things happening with Brad, but she was wearing the most beautiful golden shoes, and they were tailored for her. I mean, that's all I can remember with these shoes, and they look stunning. I wanted them.
Oh,
really lovely.
You can wear them on the show.
I know.
You can see,
I do. I
see
need to get some nice shoes.
Are you going to stay with us, because you're going to join us again on the last part of the programme with some more news, and we've also got a question from you as well. But do stay tuned, because after the break I'll be here with Warren Ryan, a very inspiring young man. He's going to be telling us all about how he changed his life around. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. Now, before I speak to my first guest, let's take a look at the fitness tip with Jane Rafter.
Hi everyone, I'm Jane, and today I want to talk to you about the differences and the similarities between Pilates and yoga. There are a lot of similarities, but there are also quite a lot of differences. So I'm just going to try and explain some of those to you to help you choose which might be best for you if you've not done them before. I think the first thing to remember is that there's a big variation in the way teachers teach these classes. So if you've done one class and you didn't like it, don't rule it out. Go and try another one, because there's so many different styles and approaches to these classes. Okay, so Pilates is always recommended for people who've got back problems, postural problems, and a weak core section. So Pilates spends a lot of time working on the abdominals, pulling the shoulders back, lengthening up the spine, and it really helps improve your core strength. Yoga is more about flexibility and mobility. It does improve your core strength as well, for sure, but it's more about mobility and flexibility. And I'm going to show you something now to explain that difference. So the exercise I'm just going to show you first is a Pilates shoulder bridge. The other thing about Pilates is it's about spinal mobility as well. So I'm just going to roll up from the pelvis up onto the shoulders, and I'm going to stay in this position. And I'm flat here, I'm squeezing the bum a little bit, and I'm controlling it with the abdominals, and then I would roll back down. So this is a Pilates shoulder bridge. And when you do this similar exercise in yoga, you would do it more like this, where you're trying to create more of a bend through your back. So you can see the difference there. So there is an overlap for sure, but there are differences as well. And one of the other differences is that there's very often more of a spiritual element to yoga, and again, this varies enormously. You can go to some classes and you'll find that there's no spiritual element really at all, and then others there's a large focus on it. So again, you need to look around and try different types of classes, and the yoga classes vary from very gentle, restorative types of classes with lots of stretching, lots of relaxation, to yoga classes which are really pacey, really dynamic, like Ashtanga yoga is very fast, very powerful, and some of the other yogas, perhaps Hatha yoga, is a little bit slower. So give them both a go. They both offer great benefits. I highly recommend both of them. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, so let's take a look at this clip to introduce Warren.
This is me. This is my story. I wake up and I realize another 24 hours. Another day to leave my footprints in this world. I work hard every hour because I know these hours will turn into greatness. The words I stand for are faith, hard work, passion, love.
Faith, hard work, passion, love. Wow. That's deep.
It is, yeah.
But before we talk about that,
Yeah.
Warren, welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you for inviting me.
Brilliant to have you here. So you've been through quite a past, haven't you? Can you
Yeah,
tell
you
the
could say
viewers
that.
about that first
Yeah.
of all?
Okay, I grew up in Oxford. A lot of people that are not from Oxford, they seem to think it's some sort of like cathedral city and nothing happened, everyone's posh. But my side of Oxford was kind of like the council estate, kind of the slum kind of side of Oxford, which is like, so growing up for me, like my mum had me at 17, so she was young herself, and she was a single parent. So I grew up seeing my mum have like several different boyfriends, and I'd see them abusing my mum as well. So from a young age, from like 5, I would see my mum like.
What was that like for you?
So, do you know what, at the time, I just, for it to stop, obviously I couldn't physically stop him hitting my mum. My tears I'd just have to cry as much as I could and step in the way of that, and that's how I kind of like broke that situation up. But it was something that happened a lot in my childhood, seeing my mum getting abused by men. And yeah, like, so I saw things which a child shouldn't see. And with that, I grew up before my time. And I got a younger brother and 2 younger sisters as well. So, so going through that, my mum sort of, she was depressed. So she was in a kind of a dark place herself. She had 4 kids by the age of like 20, 25. So, which is obviously a lot to take on. And instead of kind of like, so she used drugs for my mum was an escape. So to get out of that pain that she was feeling, she went on to drugs, and it started off with cannabis. And from the area that I grew up in, if you smoked cannabis, that was the norm. Like, I wasn't worried about that. She wouldn't die from that. So in my head, I was like, okay, that's fine. But what happened was that the more, it was like cannabis was like the gateway drug. and she started to go on to sort of like class A's.
Yeah.
So what I would do, or what I would remember as a kid, I'd go to school, finish school, and then I would find like crack pipes around my house. So for me as a kid, what I had to do, I'd go home, and I knew crack could kill my mum, so therefore that's a big fear of mine. So I'd go home and I would search around the house for these pipes, and I'd break them, and it was a repeat cycle.
Instead of you sort of worrying or thinking about normal stuff that kids do, you were, I can't believe the stuff that you're actually going through.
Yeah.
You're actually looking for these things to break them because you didn't want you to see your mum in that state. That's
definitely, yeah.
That's
like,
really sad.
At the time, I didn't know any different, so it was,
Yeah.
that was normality to me. That was normal for me. But looking back on it now, I can say, wow, I went through actually a lot as an 8-year-old.
Were you quite protective over your siblings as well?
100%, yeah. So I had to take that father role in the sense that I had to put them in line or bring them to bed because they wouldn't listen to my mum.
Yeah,
and sometimes
yeah.
when the drugs got the better of my mum, sometimes she'd go for like a day or two, and she'd tell me obviously not to open the door to anyone because I didn't want us being split apart in care. So what would normally happen as well is I'd have knocks on the door, and I'd have to get my brothers and sisters in the front room, and I'd have to put my hands over their mouths to keep them quiet.
Gosh.
And then one day, what happened was that a social worker went around the back of the house, and they saw us, all 4 of us. And then that was the point where like social services kind of intervened and put us into care. And not only that, but split us up as a family. And that was my worst fear. I didn't want that to happen because me and my brothers went into a home, and my sisters went into a home as well.
So you lost contact with them?
Yeah, I lost contact with them, and it comes to a point where, because my sisters were so young, they were going to get adopted. So the social worker sat us down and was like, Warren, like, you're going to have to say your goodbyes to your sisters, and you're not going to see them again until like they're 18, and then if they choose to see you. And
how old were you at the time?
I was around 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then when I was in foster care, what I saw was that I went from home to home, because me and my brother were little terrorists when we were little. We had no boundaries, so we'd cause havoc in any house that we was in.
Yeah.
But with that, we just when you're in foster care, from my own experience, I didn't feel a part of the family. I just felt like I don't know, I just felt like a prop or a pet or something. And times at Christmas times were like the hardest, because you just you wanted to be of your own family at Christmas, and you were kind of like at the end of the table on the chairs, but you just didn't know, you kind of felt that you wasn't included in that.
Yeah.
And so then my self-love, my respect for myself wasn't there, because I thought my dad's not in my life. My mum put us in care. And it was just, growing up, I felt so unloved. I was dying out to be loved or accepted by someone, and I didn't get it.
What were your teenage years like then?
So my teenage years, so I would say, so going through school, around 11, 12, people knew, like Oxford's a small place, so they would see my mum, like homeless at the time. They would bully me for it. I got bullied like terribly at school because of my appearance, of what I was wearing at the time. And then it come to a point in my life when I was 13 years old. And I was 13 years old, I was in my room, and I decided that I wasn't going to be a number in this world no more, that my life was going to mean something.
Really? Just thinking about it, you're so fed up, like...
Yeah, definitely. I thought, you know what, like, I didn't want to be, I didn't word it like that, but now I look back on it, that's how I saw it. I didn't want to be a number. I didn't want to be in that matrix, that mediocre, and I wanted my life to mean something. So, and I wanted to give everything to my family that I never had. And that was something that I wanted to give. And football for me was my passion, and that was something that was my token. If I made it as a professional footballer, I could give a life to my family that I never had. So going through school, I wasn't interested in maths and English. I was interested in football,
Sports.
PE, sports side of it, and so literally, like, when my friends were going to prison or going off the road, off like sort of taking drugs and whatnot, I sort of like, my vision was to make it. And
that was great that you managed to actually separate yourself from that, because you could have gone either way, really,
100%.
but you made a decision, like, you know what, I want to do something with my life. We're going to go to a quick break though, but you're going to stay with us, because then after a break you'll be telling us a bit about how you started to change things around, even though you had such a bad background. Okay, so do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. Now we're still with Warren here, and we're getting quite deep into your story because I don't want to spend a bit more time with you to find out a bit more about what happened. So you came from a very bad background, you single parent family, mum wasn't coping well, she was depressed, taking drugs, then you all got taken into care.
Yeah.
And that was a point where you could have actually gone either way.
Exactly.
You could have gone and started taking drugs yourself and gone down the road that some of your friends were going down, ending up in prison, but you had a turning point, you decided to do something completely different.
Definitely, yeah. So what happened was when I was 13, like the miracle of my childhood was that when I thought, I've always had faith that we was gonna come together, back together again as a family, and I always believed in that. So what happened was the amazing thing, the miracle I would say, is that my mum, like, put herself into rehab, and by this point, obviously, she was homeless and she was in such a dark place with drugs. So I think only 5% get off heroin or crack cocaine, and mum's that 5%, and she's now like 15 years clean, which is amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow,
so she got
amazing.
us. Yeah. So, and my sisters who were going to get adopted, on the day that they were going to get adopted, the adopted parent, all she had to do was sign the papers, and my sisters were theirs. But on the day she fell ill, and then my mum went to court and got us all together again, back together again as a family.
Wow.
And yeah, so we moved from Oxford to Bristol, and so a fresh new start. And with my past, no one knew my past. So I kind of like lived a normal life again. My mum was completely transformed, doing reflexology, like the change is amazing, my mum. And we all become a family again. But what happened was that...
What was that like coming back as a family? How did
it was
you feel?
like all my Christmases, birthdays
All those Christmases
in one.
that you didn't enjoy.
Exactly, yeah. It all made up for it. Like I was over the moon when, like, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But what happened was that my family got kind of complacent. Like my brothers and sisters, they didn't remember much about the childhood, about their early childhood. But they kind of started to follow the kind of, I think they just didn't know their worth. And they were like, they were getting into the same sort of like circle as my mum did. And whereas I've always been like the militant kind of like big brother dad person, and like if I caught them smoking or anything like that, I'd be like, I like ground him and stuff. I'd have to do those things like what dad would do. But I had their best benefits at heart. That's what I want. And then so with me as well, I got kind of complacent as well. And but football was still my dream, and I got to have a try at Bristol Rovers Academy when I was 16, and I got through. So I was there for 2 years, and then I got released, and that was because I got complacent in the sense that I was living the lifestyle before I've actually made it. And what I like disliked about it was that I had the ability to make it, but it was the mental side, and it's that voice in my head that was saying like, Warren, like how many people want to become a footballer? How many people do become a footballer? And like I started to have that doubt in my head, and I'd make mistakes in games, and I got released, and that was really hard to take on board because that was my token. That was how I was going to become something in this life. Like,
I think people underestimate the power of their thoughts and how they
100%.
think about themselves, because you were doing well, and there was no reason for you to think that you were going to do badly. But so when we allow these kind of thoughts to come in and we start saying, oh, what if you do this, or what if you don't make it, and all these doubts that come, which come to everyone.
Definitely.
If you let them in and you start listening to them, you're going to start behaving in certain ways without even realising. And like you said, you started to make mistakes, and this is what. Why do you have to listen to those? Why don't you just listen to the positive things that are there as well? And that's sort of sometimes the difference between the person that makes it and the person that doesn't.
Exactly. So with me, I was kind of hiding behind an arrogant persona, but I was really sensitive inside because I knew where I come from, and my worth was affected by that. And I had to hide behind this character that I didn't want anyone in, I didn't allow anyone to know the real me or my story. I didn't want to tell anyone my story. And that really like ate away at me. In a sense, it took my self-worth, and I had to I felt like I was clinging on to popular people to feel accepted. And it comes to a point where like I fell like really bad in depression because it was just after I got released from football, and I was doing a 9 to 5 in a relationship that wasn't healthy, and it got really bad, split up, and then I started to get like really bad anxiety and depression, like really bad depression, where like there'd be times where I couldn't get out of my bed, and I was just thinking, no matter whatever you do in this world, you're gonna die. That always was the end result. So I was thinking, what's the point? And like it got to a point where like I was having so many panic attacks a day that...
God, you sound like you're talking about my story. Yeah,
it's crazy.
The same thing he's talking about was what I went through.
Yeah, so what happened was I went to the doctors and I told them my symptoms, and they were like, yeah, you've got depression. And they wanted to give me antidepressants. And that was something that like hit home to me with seeing my mum go through that and changing how my mum acted. So I just broke down, I started crying, and I didn't accept it. I didn't want to take those tablets. So what I did was I went home and I was going to find the root cause of this depression, understand and invest in within and find that root cause of depression. And the amazing thing was that I had a phone call a couple of days after I seen a doctor. It was like, Warren, you applied for this job in America. Someone's dropped out. And I applied for this job the year before. So someone's dropped out, they phoned me at last minute, literally last minute, like, Warren, do you want to take this opportunity? And I was in such a place where I had a car, I was renting, I had a job, and I said, because I was in depression, I just said, yeah, I'll take it. And I left.
Looking for happiness.
Yeah, so I left on Friday. I had a phone call on a Monday, and I left on Friday. And then that was a turning point in my life where I truly found my worth as a person, and I overcome depression, and just all by asking different questions. And I realized that what you repeatedly do or what you repeatedly say, you become, and understanding the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and that like the questions that you ask yourself, okay, like your mind will answer it whether you like it or not. And then I start to realize this, and I start to think, okay, and then I start to surround myself around positive people. That is so important. 100%.
Now, Warren, we've got about 4 minutes left, so can you tell us about Need for Success?
Okay,
you set something up, didn't you, to help other people going through difficulties?
Yeah, so Need for Success is my company that I started up, and it was something that when I was in America, I wrote my story. I wrote on a blog, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Because you had found it quite hard to talk about your past.
100%. Yeah, that was the hardest thing. I think clicking send was harder than going through what I went through. And then I had thousands of messages coming through, and my Twitter went from like 1,000 to 50,000 followers. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to set up this company called Need for Success, and that's my passion. I love helping people. And this company, so with my company, what I do is I do seminars, I do workshops in schools, and I work with people to recondition their mindset so that they know their worth. And I found out when you know your worth, you won't settle below your standards in life. And that's where Need for Success is going. It's getting bigger every day, and I'm just constantly engaged with motivation, and that motivation is driving towards Need for Success, and it's changing lives. And it's like, a lot of people don't realize if you can change one person's life, you haven't just changed one person's life, you change generations after generations. It's a ripple effect as well, isn't it? Because
it affects other people.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Now, just before you go as well, tell us a bit about the training, because we saw you on the video there doing all this training. How does that sort of fit into everything?
Do you know, I think training for me, with depression, training was like the first sort of, for me it was like, the training allowed me to get in a place where I was striving for something. Because I think you can see results, if you train really hard, you see results, and it keeps you focused with a purpose, and you're overcoming obstacles as well. So as I'm a qualified personal trainer too as well. So I went down the fitness modelling route as well. So
done quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, do you know what I like?
How old are you now?
I'm 25.
Oh.
Yes, yeah. So
still very young and done so much. It's really good.
Yeah, so literally, like on the fitness side of it, I've just used to really. I think it's a good foundation to start off with, because your body tells. If you look at someone's body, that's the standard of their life, of how they think and treat themselves. So that's where.
And how often do you train?
I train 5 to 6 days a week.
Is it like mainly weights and stuff you do?
Yeah, do you know, I vary it as well. Like, so a lot of body weight exercises, weights, interval, change it up.
Well, you'd get on with Jane then.
Yeah.
You would. I just any final words for youngsters that are watching now that are saying to themselves, you know what, I'm in this horrible mess at home and I just want to give up. What would you say to them?
I would say, do you know what, just hearing my story, I think who I am speaks louder than what I say. because I've come from the same backgrounds a lot of these kids are coming from, and I know pain relates to pain. And it's realising to change that pain to mould you into the person that you are rather than break you, and using what you've been through as an excuse to fail in life or to give up in life. And
you can use it as a springboard to help other people, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's know that you're 1 in 7 billion, and you're unique, and you can bring something to this world that this world's never seen before.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ron.
No
It's
worries.
been wonderful talking to
No
you.
worries.
Thank you so much. Okay, so do stay tuned, because after the break, I'll be speaking to Dr. Arthur Cassidy. Don't go away.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, welcome back. So now I've got a phone call with Dr. Arthur Cassidy. Hello?
Hello, Chrissy.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Lovely.
So thanks for joining us on the show. So I wanted to find out a little bit about cyberbullying, because obviously this is quite an increasing problem, especially in recent years. And it's very easy, if someone wants to bully someone else, it's very easy to do it nowadays, as it was done before, but not to the extent that it is nowadays, because obviously the internet and things like that. Now, why do you think there is such an increase in cyberbullying, and how can a person that is a victim cope with it?
Well, first of all, our culture has changed quite dramatically over the past decade, Chrissy. We are now seeing quite gradual dehumanization of our normal, what we call cognitive functions, or how we think about things, how we think about other people. And so we become controlled now by the rapid growth and spread of digital communication in smartphones, iPads, and the various forms of social networking, which do tend to facilitate quite a lot of social interaction nowadays. So there are many, many positive outcomes to social networking in contrast to the massive negative publicity that very often gets, and which I've got to deal with in terms of how it threatens young people's identities in terms of self-harming and suicidal behaviour.
And obviously it's very devastating for a person that is a victim, because they really can get bombarded, and then that things spread very quickly on social media as well. If a person is a victim, what advice would you give to them?
The most important thing, Chrissy, is that there is a plethora of sound, highly validated and very lucid information, easy to understand for victims who have been cyberbullied, what techniques to practice in order to preserve their self-identity. And many of these are widely available to many people without mentioning names. And so most of these self-help sites have been, we do know from research that they have been quite effective in helping people to reconstruct who they are, the type of person they want to be. Listening to your previous contributor, it's very about having positive people around us, living positive lives, thinking in a positive way, and not to allow the cyberbullies to threaten us. We can block them, we can take screenshots, we can report them to the police, and we can take that evidence and build it up. Bullies, cyberbullies, particularly trolls, for example, we can beat the trolls very easily by ignoring them. Ignore a troll, they will go away, because they're troll because they feel of psychological, emotional payoff. So once we begin not to reinforce them, they will move on to someone else who is much more likely to be more highly vulnerable.
Yeah. And it is also very important to speak up about it in the first place, because a lot of people maybe feel ashamed, they feel embarrassed that it's happening to them, and they try to sort of act tough, but they do need to talk about it at the end of the day, whether it's to sort of, you know, just tell someone about the issue, or even to get help for themselves for the way they're feeling.
Yes, absolutely, Chrissy. And it's very warming when I listen to my own clients coming here, and in terms of suicidal ideation and young people who've been bullied, who've had fragmented family lives and so on. And what I do know from listening carefully to these young people, and older people also, that it's simply a matter of being able to understand really that they are people, and they are loved, that they are unique, that they are talented and skilled, no matter who they are. And there's always good in people, no matter where we go, whatever culture we go into. These are people at the end of the day. Beyond all of the emotional trauma, they are people. And I think we've got to come back to that basic principle of filling our lives with optimism and being positive, being able to see ourselves as achievers, as your previous contributor has just said so very well. And we've got to surround ourselves by looking at myself 5 years down the line and saying, I can do it. I believe in myself. We call this self-efficacy, believing in your abilities. Yeah. I can beat the bullies. I'm an important person. And I can tell you, Chrissy, that many of the people that I have seen, both here and in England, and that I have been speaking to, who have been trolled and who have been bullied quite extensively, young people from the age of 8 upwards, what has happened has been that they haven't had the skills, really, to understand why bullies do bully, because of anonymity. And the more we try to educate them in very simple ways about how to deal with those bullies, how to take a bully and say, look, this is not on, and I am not believing what you say about me. And because bullies and cyberbullies, and especially trolls, and the most crazy phenomena of presenting selfies online and sharing those, what's happening is that the trolls are picking up on these. Trolls will go for young girls mostly who have very beautiful physical features, high cheekbones, wide eyes, wide lips, wide mouths, and these tend to be, we do know from our own research into trolls and internet behavior, these are the type of physical features that trolls will pick up on, and they will then begin to threaten that young person's identity. Also, if they have a disability, we do know that trolls will target those who have been disabled mentally or physically, and they will begin to enter into this form of prolonged chronic abuse. So we're beginning to understand a good deal more and educate young people and their parents about how to trap the bullies, how to ignore them, how to report them, and also we are trying to work with government to try and inculcate a sense of a culture of awareness on these sites so that young people feel safe and can practice safe internet activity.
It's something we definitely need to be talking about and making sure that, in the media as well, we do talk about it so people are aware of what to do as well. Well, Dr. Cassidy, thank you so much for the advice. That was great speaking to you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Now, we did have a video ready to show you, but I think we've actually run out of time, so I will be instead answering a question from a viewer. So if you just follow me over here. So I have a question from, I think I've got a couple of minutes left so I can answer that for you. This is from Jacqueline, and she says, "Hi Chrissy, I have 8 children between me and my husband, but we do not speak to the 2 eldest. They started to look down on us and our lifestyle, even though we are very hard-working people. The problem is I miss my grandson and I'm missing out on seeing him grow up. The elder boys don't even contact the younger children anymore. They don't answer their phones and it seems like they have just vanished. What would you do, Chrissy?" Okie dokie. So, first of all, I know it's a really difficult situation that you're going through at the moment. First of all, did anything actually happen? Did anything cause them not to speak to you? Was there an argument? Was there a disagreement? If there was, then I think the first thing you can try to do is actually an apology, maybe just to talk about how you feel and just get things out in the open and talk about things. Now, if you have actually tried to speak to your children and they don't want to know, I would say, and I know this is going to be a really, really hard thing to do, I would say you need to move on, because at the end of the day, you can't force someone that doesn't want to speak to you for whatever reason to speak to you. If you've tried your best, you've tried to apologise, you've tried to involve them in your life, I think you just have to, you've got 6 other children, right? You can invest in them and other grandchildren, I'm sure. Develop the relationship with the ones that do want to speak to you. Spend time with them. Don't, dwell too much on this. I know it hurts because they're your children. But if you just get stuck, you're going to start getting negative and you're going to end up kind of affecting the other relationships you have in your life. And actually the most important person that you have in your life at the moment that you can really invest in is your husband as well. Don't forget about him. He should be, and I'm always a firm believer that, the husband or the wife, that you're each other's number one. I think that priority should be your partner first of all, and then the children, because a good relationship normally, has an impact on the kids as well. So invest in your husband, your relationship with your husband, and when maybe your other 2 sons, they see that you're actually moving on and you're happy with the rest of the family, they will miss you, they will miss that, and they will, your other kids will talk about it, and they will end up missing you. But if what your other children are saying to them when they see your other 2 sons, oh, mum and dad are really depressed and, they're grumpy and stuff like that, they're not going to want to even come and talk to you. Just see what I mean? So you just have to, even though it's a really hard thing to do, but you have tried your best, you have tried to speak to them, so just go ahead, get on with your life, You know, I'm also a big believer in prayer as well, because I think prayer can move mountains. You can try that as well. So then just move on with your life, and I'm sure things will work out for you, because your grandson's going to start asking questions at some point, and I think that's when they're going to miss you. So I do hope that's helped. And if you have a question too, you can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. We have reached the end of the program for today, and if you want more information about our guest tonight and also information about the show, you can visit the website chrissybshow.tv. Bye bye for now.